Okay. Okay, how about now? Okay, how about now? Let me know if I'm muted right now. Okay, so I'm not muted. Okay, so perfect. I'm not muted anymore. Perfect, perfect. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so 6 minutes into the live stream, we'll start right here. Okay, we'll start from the very top. Obviously, the card that we just saw right now, UFC 326. Many people were expecting a BMF fight, but what they got was a wrestling fest. And right now, what I think they got going on is sort of this idea of what a BMF is. But the reality is that the BMF is just a made up belt. It's literally a made up belt. Okay? There are certain criterias that come with it, right? Like you have to fight hard, you have to throw strikes, but at the same time, you got to understand it is not a kickboxing belt or a boxing belt or a bare knuckle belt, okay? However, they try to make it seem like that is the ultimate criteria of what this belt means. But in reality, most belts don't really mean anything. Now, you could say some belts are a lot more prestigious than others. You could say that the World WWE Championship is a lot more prestigious than the Intercontinental Championship belt. Well, in this case, you could say that the 155 belt, by the way, a belt that Ilia Topuria is going to compete against Justin Gaethje in the White House, is way more prestigious than that of the BMF belt being contested tonight at 155, in which Conor McGregor made a point saying something to the effect that I don't understand why these guys are draining themselves for a 155 belt when this belt was created by Nate Diaz, a belt that, by the way, he created or at least started. In that one call out, his post Anthony Pettis fight, calls out Jorge Masvidal, says to him, hey, you know what? Jorge Masvidal is a gangster. I want to fight him, but guess what? He's not a West Coast gangster, so I want to get it on with an East Coast gangster. Miami versus California. Next thing you know, they're fighting in front of Trump in New York City, 2019, and that was that, okay? But that was sort of lackluster as well, right? Because it ended the way that it did, but it's a New York State commission. Now, fast forward to 2026. We got Max Holloway. We got Max Holloway taking on Max Holloway taking on Charles Oliveira. Only for Charles Oliveira to do what? Charles Oliveira wrestled him every single round, took him down, almost submitted him with a rear naked choke almost every round, at least until the 5th round, in which Charles Oliveira actually mounted some kind of offense. I'm sorry, Max Holloway mounted some kind of offense. The type of offense that, quite frankly, was desperate. He was in desperation mode, okay? And then in the end of it, as soon as they got up in the 5th round, here comes Charles Oliveira obliging to Max Holloway, saying, you know what? I'm going to do what I said I was going to do. I'm going to oblige you and do the 10-second man dance. You know what I'm talking about. That same man dance where he knocked out Justin Gaethje, by the way, the guy who's going to be fighting at the White House against Ilia Topuria, and we're going to talk about that as well, where he knocked him out, and he gave him a chance to knock him out. But lo and behold, at that point, I think Max Holloway was too spent. Okay, he couldn't do anything at that point. There was nothing that he could do. And as a result of that, it was easy work for him through and through. It was an easy work night, and he did exactly what he wanted to do, which was wrestle him. There was a few times where he was very close to submitting him, but Max had great defense. His defense was great, man. His defense was absolutely great. It was amazing. He showed what kind of defense he had, but by the end of the day, listen, this is not a participation trophy. This is for an imaginary title, but again, all titles are imaginary, but this one doesn't even have really any merit to it other than just a celebratory belt, or just a belt that you could just put on any random event that has no meaning to any particular championship lineage. So DC was saying in the end of the broadcast, hey, you know what, I'm just asking a question. can he really be the BMF considering that he fought in this kind of way? Right? That was a question that he asked. Okay, I understand that question. I understand the premise of that question. I understand that he was asking in good faith. He says, are you watching Jai versus Glanton? Yes, I am. I won't be reacting to it, but I will be watching it from my home. Yes, I will be watching it, just not reacting to it. Yes, I am looking forward to that as well. So, yeah. Hold on a second here. So, okay, Ioana Jędrzejczyk got her, her Hall of Fame tonight. He says, so you're so knowledgeable person. Thank you. Abdul Rahim says, hi. Assalamu alaikum. How are you? How do you know everything about UFC? Please explain. You're so knowledgeable, intelligent, stats, educated, and articulated. Please keep it up. You know everything. You know everything. Keep it up, brother. Are you? Yes. The reason why, because I train it, and also I think just being an overall enthusiastic fan about it helps. Now, here's the thing that I think I need you to know, right? Just because you train at the sport, it doesn't mean that you're knowledgeable about the business, right? I just happen to be knowledgeable about everything because I happen to have a huge interest for not just the business side of combat sports, the psychology side, but also the entertainment side of it all. So I'm interested in all of it, right? I'm interested in all of it, and I just happen to have trained martial arts for a very long time, and with that combination, I bring you what I bring you to my YouTube channel in hopes that I can, you know, somehow give, you know, different perspectives and analysis, because obviously the game of MMA YouTube is such a saturated game that you have to offer something different. Well, I try to offer something different. I try to offer my life experiences. I try to offer my interests outside of MMA, and that is ultimately what I try to do in that process. Creston says, hi, hello, how are you? Let me know what part of the world you are from. Creston, is it Crexton or Creston? Let me know how that is properly pronounced. So, yes, 5-round decision for for Charles Oliveira. And I was surprised. I was surprised that this was the outcome of the fight. Now, the reason why I was surprised of the outcome of this fight is because I honestly thought it was going to be a striking affair. Because I thought, all right, I know that Max is great. I'm sorry, that Holloway, Charles Oliveira, sorry, I'm getting them mixed up. I know that Charles Oliveira is great on the ground, but I wondered, how will he take him down to the ground? Okay? That is the one thing that I wanted to know. How is he going to take him down to the ground? What was he going to do to bring him there? How would he bring him there? And then we found out. We found out exactly how he was going to bring him to the ground, and we found out just how easy it was for Max Holloway to do that. Wyatt Combs says pronouns. I don't have any pronouns. I am a man. I am a he. I am a he-man. I am all of those things. That is all man, and then plus more, and that is what I stand by. And I am a red-blooded male, red-blooded Muslim male at that, and I don't apologize for any of it. So that is my stance on that. Wyatt McComb, shout outs to you, my man. Let me know what part of the world you are from. Let us discuss tonight's fights and see what is next, because we know what is next now. It is a UFC Whitehouse fight card, okay? And here's the thing, right? Let me tell you what's interesting about the UFC Whitehouse card being headlined by Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria is a Spanish national. Recently, the Prime Minister of Spain refused to help the United States in their war efforts against Iran. They said, you cannot fly your planes out from Spain anymore. We don't want to be part of your war. We don't want anything to do with your war. And as a result, the United States is up out of here in Spain. This is the Spanish Prime Minister saying this, right? Prime Minister Sanchez, I believe his name is. So I thought to myself, Ilia Topuria is going to headline the Whitehouse card. He's going to headline. He's going to be the main event. That is interesting. And I thought, what kind of diplomatic relations can Ilia Topuria bring from the Prime Minister of Spain? Do you not think that Donald Trump will get in the ear of Ilia Topuria, the UFC 155 champion, and say to him, hey, talk to the Prime Minister of Spain. I'm giving you an opportunity here to be the biggest star that you could ever be. I'm giving you the opportunity to even be bigger than Conor McGregor. Now, we know that's not true. Even if he was going to fight at the White House, even if he's going to win, he is projected to win against Justin Gaethje. Even with that, he will never be bigger than Conor McGregor. But you know how these fighters are. These fighters are cocky and arrogant to the point that they will believe that they are the best at everything. The best pay-per-view seller, the best guys at, you know, X, Y, and Z. You can't tell these guys anything. You can't tell them no. You can't tell them, you know, you can't be this or you can't be that. If you convince Ilia Topuria that he will be a bigger star than Conor McGregor because he's headlining this fight, then you will. So Donald Trump can sort of get in his ear and say, hey, you know the Prime Minister of Spain. You're the national hero of Spain. Why don't you get in there, talk to him, and say, hey, let us use your jets. Let us use your airstrips so that we can continue this war effort against Iran. Now, could that not be a possibility? Of course. That is a possibility. That is a reality. It's just a couple of things that I noticed about, okay? But obviously, we're going to get through the White House card, and then we're going to get through the whole entire card tonight. So those are the combination of things that we are going to take a look at tonight, right? A combination of the White House card, and then a combination of the card that we just went through right now, UFC 326, okay? Abdul Rahim says, you're a good person and a great pillar to the Muslim community around the world. We need more people like a good person. Thank you. You're welcome, and praise be to Allah. Thank you, my man. Abdul Rahim says, how is your fasting going, Ramadan Kareem? What day is Eid? I believe Eid is going to be on either the 19th or 20th, inshallah. So we shall see. Respect to all Muslims around the world, Muslim brothers and sisters around the world. I think what you're trying to say is you know everything. I don't think I know everything. I think I know what there is that needs to be known in the field that I operate in, right? I think that's the best way to put it, right? Sort of like what Charles Oliveira did tonight, right? You probably think by looking at Charles Oliveira that he is probably the most well-rounded fighter in the world, right? Well, the reality is maybe not. Maybe he's not. But what he knew how to do in terms of his grappling prowess, he knew how to apply that in order to be effective tonight. And that's exactly what he did throughout 5 rounds, right? I honestly thought that, hey, you know what? This fight was going to be contested on the feet, and therefore Max Holloway was going to have the clear advantage. And that wasn't the case. That was not the case. The case was not that he was, the clear advantage in the feet, because even Charles Oliveira had his moments in the feet, but he had his moments in the feet because he had his moments on the ground. And that is ultimately what led Charles Oliveira to his success and victory tonight. So that is the main event of the evening. What is next for Charles Oliveira? Who knows? Maybe Conor McGregor is up next. What is next for Max Holloway? Maybe Max Holloway gets Conor McGregor next. Because you know Conor McGregor is not going to try to wrestle him, right? I'm sure people would love to see Max Holloway in a stylistic matchup where people are not going to try to wrestle him, i.e. Conor McGregor. So maybe that is the fight that is coming up next. But who knows? What is the trajectory for Charles Oliveira? Who knows? He can't fight Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria is busy. But what if Ilia Topuria decides to one day, hey, I want to move up to 170 and fight Islam Makhachev? Well, then maybe we have a conversation there. But for now, I think Charles Oliveira is stuck, right? He's the BMF champion at this point, right? A championship that really means nothing. And then on top of that, when it comes to the rankings, it almost means nothing to what he can do because there's no one that he can really fight other than the champion, but you don't really want to see that fight anyway because you'd rather see Ilia Topuria fight Justin Gaethje, obviously, at the White House. You'd rather see him fight Paddy Pimblett. Now, let me tell you why this whole thing was mid. It was all because Paddy Pimblett could not win. And the fact that he could not win was the reason why It is Justin Gaethje that was at the White House and not Paddy Pimblett. Now, if it was Paddy Pimblett, my goodness, it would have been an even bigger card. People would not be saying that it's mid. A lot of people were saying that this card was mid. They were not happy with it. Let's get the rundown a little bit on the full White House card for a second, okay? We're going to get the White House card right here for a second. Let me see here. Let me show you guys the White House card. So, the White House card. Let's start from the very bottom. Diego Lopez versus Steve Garcia. You happy with that? Why not? Diego Lopez has been in a lot of big fights, right? Steve Garcia, you know why he's in this fight? Steve Garcia is in this fight because he's friends with Charlie Kirk. You guys know that, right? I don't know if you know that, but in his last fight, he mentioned, hey, you know what? Charlie Kirk was supposed to be here in this fight, but he couldn't make it because for the obvious reasons. Bo Nickel taking on Kyle Dawkins. By the way, shout outs to John Dong on my live chat, right? He's a guy that comes to my live chats, you know, in my comment section, and he mentioned that, hey, what do you think about the fight with Bo Nickel and Kyle Dawkins? Guess what? The fight came to fruition. Ali Khan says, man, that BMF title was absolutely shite. A lot of people are saying that. He says, one of the worst title fights I have ever seen. Well, here's the thing, right? The performance in and of itself was not bad, right? Because as a kid, like myself, who grew up wrestling, who grew up grappling, who appreciates the grappling arts, I say Charles Oliveira did a very good job. But what they marketed this whole entire thing for was the fact that, hey, it's a BMF card, and the BMF means what? It means that we are going to fight in a BMF matter. What does that mean when you say that you're going to fight in a BMF matter? That means that you are going to strike. You are going to throw hands. But it's not a boxing belt. It's not a kickboxing belt. It's not a bare knuckle boxing belt. It's a belt, period, that says you are the BMF, which, by the way, has a lot of subjective meaning behind it. He says, I'm okay with the MMA fights, but this one was catered for BMF. Correct. Charles Oliveira is a BMF. Why? How is he a BMF, first of all, right? He quit plenty of times in his fight. Now, I know that he redeemed himself at some point, but he quit at some point. Abdul Rahim says, what does a BMF mean? It's a stupid belt. It is. It's a gimmick belt. It's not a real championship belt. I mean, look, there is a reason why the Zuffa Boxing Championship belt looks like the BMF belt, because in their mind, in their Freudian slip mind, they kind of know that it almost really doesn't mean anything. But anyways, yeah, that's what we have. Bo Nickel versus Kyle Dawkins. Steve Garcia, he's a friend of Charlie Kirk. Go figure. Bo Nickel, he's one of Donald Trump's favorite fighters because he looks like the prototype white American fighter, right? Why would Donald Trump not love that? That's what it is. And then on top of that, Mauricio Rufy and Michael Chandler. They said that they were going to have Mauricio Rufy fight Conor McGregor at some point. Well, that obviously did not happen, right? And then now you have Michael Chandler as the replacement. On top of that, Sean O'Malley taking on Ayman Zahabi. Now, I made a live stream about maybe yesterday, or was it this morning? I don't know, man. I've been really hot making live streams. That's why all of you are coming in here talking smack, because I'm doing something that you're not, right? You know, you're over there talking your smack. I'm not even going to address you. I'm just going to let you talk in the comment section. I'm not even going to address some of you, right? I'm just going to address who I want to address. I'm going to let you talk, run up the algorithm, say what it is that you want to say, but just understand that I've been grinding, I've been working, because I really want to try to get somewhere with this, right? Meanwhile, you're over here, you're talking smack to feel better about yourself for whatever reason you have going on in your life. All right, fine. You know, live your life. I'm going to live mine. Hey, I'm going to live my life enjoying these MMA streams and living my best life, trying to accomplish my goals, because I've already accomplished a lot of goals in my real life. Now I'm trying to accomplish some goals on the internet. right? So imagine that, right? A lot of you guys just can't even accomplish things in your real life, let alone accomplish things on the internet. But here I am nonetheless, right? So, okay. I remember I was saying that a fight got canceled by Dana White during the Power Slap contest, right? I think him and Nina Drama came up with it and said something, oh man, I think Hunter Campbell is going to unalive himself, right? Because a fight fell out. I think I know what fight that is. It was Peter Yan and Sean O'Malley. I think they were going to give Sean O'Malley an opportunity to fight for the title at the White House. And then they realized, hey, you know what, man? Peter Yan can't go in there and fight. Maybe Peter Yan has an injury. Look out for Peter Yan. Get updates on Peter Yan. If Peter Yan has any injury, then all directions point that they were going to make Sean O'Malley versus Peter Yan. But guess what? They gave it to Ayman Zahabi. And you know what? I happen to know Ayman Zahabi, by the way, right? I'm very happy for him. Okay, I'm very happy for Ayman Zahabi. So, great. I'm happy for my Muslim brother. This is great. This is a great, Ramadan gift for him, getting a gift to fight at the White House. Now, how amazing is that, right? I think he's the only Muslim fighter in this whole entire card, right? They were trying to get Khamzat in there. That couldn't happen. They were trying to get Islam in there. That couldn't happen. Ayman Zahabi is the only Muslim fighter in this card. That's awesome. He said Peter Yan shows up against Umar. The UFC really doesn't like Umar, though. Correct. Abdul Rahim says, you have completed all your goals. Congratulations. You're so knowledgeable, educated, and goals a complete person. He says, Sean is ducking Omar hard. I don't know about that, man. I don't know. You know what? Here's the thing. A lot of people are not happy with this card, right? A lot of people are not happy with this card. And the reason being is because let's try to understand something, right? I'm going to tell you what I wrote to my friend, right? He wrote to me just one word, okay? He wrote mid. Okay, one of my Indian homies, Jason Singh. Shout outs to Jason Singh. So I said to Jason, I said, well, look, this is the best that the UFC can do right now. Some guys are renegotiating their contract, i.e. Conor McGregor. Some guys are trying to get out of their contract, i.e. Jon Jones, okay? And Tom Aspinall, maybe, perhaps, right? And on top of that, some guys are busy on other cards. And then there's injuries that are plaguing some guys as well. That's also a reality to this. So I don't know. I don't know if I would buy that Sean is ducking Omar. I mean, Sean, I think, will fight anybody at any time, especially at 135, right? I think the only way that Sean would duck anyone is if you were to propose to him, hey, move up a weight class and fight X, Y, and Z at 145 or 155. I think that he would absolutely refuse that. Sir Jacob says, am I the only one thinking American fighters should be on the card? Well, okay, what American fighters do we have? Kyle Dawkins, that's as American as you get. I think his brother is, I believe a police officer, right? I believe his brother is like a police officer in Philadelphia. Yeah, he comes from a very, patriotic, service-minded family, right? Doesn't get more American than that. He's taken on Bo Nickel. Doesn't get more American than that. Michael Chandler, annoyingly American, right? Mauricio Rufy, obviously Brazilian Conor McGregor. Sean O'Malley, American. Cyril Gane versus Alex Pereira, not so American. Justin Gaethje, American. Ilia Topuria, not American, but he is from Spain. And I told you guys earlier, for those of you that just tapped in, I told you that I believe the reason why Ilia Topuria is probably headlining this card is for diplomatic reasons with Spain. Now, for those of you that don't know what's going on, Spain is refusing America for using their fighter jets and their airstrips to launch and fight the Iranians with, right? Because obviously they're, close to that region, the European, Mediterranean, Middle Eastern region. They're close to all these parts of the world, right? So he says Jason Singham. Yeah, you're talking about my my homie, right? Yeah. So now I think Donald Trump can use Ilia Topuria to get in the ears of the Spanish Prime Minister. He can say to the Prime Minister, hey, you know what? I would like for you to help us get the Prime Minister on board with this war against Iran. We need your airstrips. Can you talk to him, Ilya Topora? I will give you the headline for the White House. That is a possibility. He says, you know everything about boxing and UFC? Yes. MP says Spain also doesn't want to pay their share for the UN. Very good. Yes. That is a very good, astute observation right there, MP. Right? But also, Elon Musk is advising the United States and Donald Trump to get out of the UN, to also get out of NATO, to also get out of any, you know, world organization that has no meaning to, you know, the United States or, you know, the America First movement that, you know, Donald Trump claims he's about. MP also says he is, after barely winning his fight, he's pushing for Peter because he knows he's significant underdog against Peter and Marab. Okay, so then there's Alex Pereira and then Cyril Gahn. Let's hear what Dana White has to say right now. I believe Dana White is live right now. Hold on. And by the way, we're going to go over the card as well tonight. I just went over the whole entire White House card with you guys. We're going to go over the whole card. I went over the main event. We're going to go over the co-main event and then the card all the way down, okay?
Fights ever with Garber and Jalon, but just curious kind of what you thought about being back on network television and, you know,
what is going on here, huh? Let's go with the UFC, website instead.
Exceeded their expectations on how many people.
Okay, let's start.
Got on the ground here. The gate tonight was $8.3 million. Attendance 19,480. It was sold out. 4 performers of the night. Bonuses: Bellato, Montez, Rodriguez, and Dober.
Dana, dominant work from Charles Oliveira, but maybe not exactly the fight the crowd was anticipating or looking for. What were your thoughts on the way the main event played?
I don't know if anybody was expecting that. I mean, the way he body locked him and took him down so easily.
Yes, I think he could be in title contention, right? I would love to see him in title contention. I think Raul Rojas is getting up there. Shout out to Marty Miller. He says, finally made it home, man. Hey, welcome home, man, and good job for you and your team. Everybody, shout outs to Marty Miller. He cornered his boy tonight to a 40-second submission. Rear naked choke. Shout outs to Nate Davies of Victory MMA in Ohio.
Really dominated him on the ground. I thought there'd be a lot more stand-up, and I thought that that Max would do a better job at defending the takedown. And if he got on the ground, he'd at least pop up a couple, 3 times during the round, but total domination.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the goal of the sport is to win fights, right? But when it's a BMF title fight, do you feel like there's a unwritten rule that you got to fight a little bit differently, that you got to make it a stand-up war and not have a, you know, grappling-based approach?
Well, I think you'll have those type of guys, but, you know, the goal at the end of the day in every fight is to win. So he did exactly what he needed to do to win. And I think probably, you know, you'll have to ask Max, but in training camp, they're probably expecting, you know, if you see Charles fight, he's not afraid.
Hey, Abdul Rahim, thank you, my man. You are the Muslim JD Vance. Abdul Rahim, okay? I just want to say that to you. You are the Muslim JD Vance. Allahu Akbar, brother.
You go toe-to-toe, stand up, and, you know, they obviously really believed that if they took him down to the ground, tonight would happen.
Yeah, no doubt. 4 fights tonight.
And by the way, Marty, if you don't believe me that Abdul Rahim is the Muslim JD Vance, go look at the comment section above, okay?
Broadcast on CBS as well, including like one of the weirdest fights ever with Garbrandt and Jalon. But just curious kind of what you thought about being back on network television, and, you know, is that an important milestone for the UFC?
Yeah, I think that, you know, if you look at where we are now, we're out from underneath 2 paywalls, you know, so obviously being on CBS is huge, and you know, Paramount, for, you know, for what it would cost you for one pay-per-view, you can watch everything UFC for the year. I mean, we already feel the difference in the business, and Paramount definitely does. I think we have exceeded their expectations on how many people are coming over to watch the fights, and obviously the White House fight will blow it out of the water.
Well, you made the announcements tonight that everybody's been waiting on. I guess talk about how you decided on Ilia Topuria and Justin Gaethje of getting that honor of main eventing this historic.
Yeah, I can tell you why they chose Justin Gaethje and Ilia Topuria. First of all, Ilia Topuria is a Spanish national, right? And Spain right now is refusing the United States for using their airstrips, right? Spain is refusing the United States for using their airstrips, and they need Ilia Topuria to talk to the Prime Minister and say, hey, listen, hey, man, let the Americans use their our airstrips, you know, so they can go bomb Iran. He says, who else did they announce on that card? That's it, bro. Ayman Zahabi is taking on Sean O'Malley, and I thought, wow, that's out of left field. Then I thought, okay, you know what? They were probably going to set up Peter Yan to fight, Sean O'Malley in that card. So maybe they were going to have 3 championship fights, right? They decided they were going to go with Ayman Zahabi. Ayman Zahabi seemed to be the only one available, and as a result, Ayman Zahabi becomes the only Muslim fighter to fight in the Whitehouse card, right? And he's not even American, nor does he even have ties to America, right? At least Islam Makhachev has ties to California, right? He trains out here. But, you know, Ayman Zahabi is a Canadian Muslim, but nonetheless a Muslim, right? The only Muslim that's fighting in the Whitehouse card, right? Not exactly the most popular Muslim fighter, but, you know, hey, listen, Ayman Zahabi's my friend, by the way. Okay, so I'm kind of happy for him, but I'm just talking as a, you know, as a content creator and not exactly as his buddy. Now, as his buddy, I'm very happy for Ayman Zahabi, right? I couldn't be even more happy for Ayman Zahabi. But, you know, let's be real. That's not the ideal Muslim fighter that you wanted on the card. I'm sure you wanted Islam Makhachev. I'm sure you wanted Khamzat Chimaev. That was not the case here. But it is what it is. He says, yeah, seems kind of weak. MP says Ilia isn't a political guy. Well, you know what? He's not a political guy, but if Trump gets in his ear and says, hey, listen, I need your help. I gave you a favor. I gave you a platform to fight in front of my house. You know, why don't you, you know, talk to your boy. Talk to your, the guy that does my job in your country. You know, I mean, look, would you put it past Trump? Because look, listen, man, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, all these guys, they want to pull out of helping the United States with their war efforts in Iran. They don't want no smoke with Iran. They don't want none of this smoke. Okay, they're getting bombed by Iran. They're you know, getting desecrated by Iran. They're like, we don't want none of this smoke. We need you guys up out of here. Okay, so now the U.S. cannot operate in Arab lands anymore, right? And they need the Arab world in order for them to facilitate them so they can strike at Iran, okay? But they don't want to fight with Iran because, you know, Iran basically, you know, made the Arabs, and, you know, I'm saying this as an Arab man, you know, fall to their knees because the Arabs right now are vehemently worried about their money, their bottom line. They are about their money. They're not about fighting a holy war, you know, even though the Arab world has, you know, the spirit of jihad fi sabilillah, you know, in their history, but not in the modern days of, you know, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, and the metropolitan world that they are trying to build. He says we have bases all over the Arabian Peninsula. Yeah, and they're trying to kick the Americans out. Okay, so now you need Spain. He says, yeah, an absolute disgrace having Gaethje on the White House card main event. Well, guys, like I said, I told you, right? Oh, Israel. I mean, yes, Israel will stand by the United States no matter what. But Kuwait, Kuwait, yes, they will stand by the U.S. Maybe the UAE, because they still need to be protected by America, because if America isn't there, man, it could get worse. But at the same time, they're sort of, you know, bowing down. So trust me when I tell you, Ilia Topuria is needed as a political pawn because he needs to get into the ear of Spain. And if I was Donald Trump, that's exactly what I would do. Hey, kid, you're from Spain, right? All right, go talk to your prime minister. And for you to say that he's not political, okay, he's not, but he is so mainstream in Spain that he does have that kind of pull. MP says, I'd say the opposite, considering Iran has showed aggression to these countries. Yeah, but you know what, man? These are not the same type of Arabs that you think they are. You know what I mean? They are not, put it this way, right? One of the greatest kings of Saudi Arabia of all time was King Faisal. You know, if this was King Faisal during that time, man, he would fight Iran to the death. Okay, he would fight Iran to the death, but not this guy. Drizzy Goat says Ilya is fighting down now. Worse opponents, effing trash. Ass main event should have been Armin. Facts. Kid Official says Charles is the effing BMF. People should stop coping. There, the BMF doesn't have grappling. There it is. Victory says, so John versus Alex? No. Alex versus Cyril Gane. Yeah, it's Cyril Gane versus Alex. So there was a reason why Alex vacated the belt, but he vacated the belt to go for an interim belt. Let that sink in.
Yeah, so basically what we did is the matchmakers went out and put together, started talking to everybody, seeing what fights were possible, and then came back to me, and I chose the card.
Nice. Interim title fight at heavyweight with Alex Bejeda and Cyril Gane. I guess reading into that, does that mean there's really no update on when Tom Aspinall will be back? And have you checked in with Eddie Hearn, I guess, an update?
Yeah, Tom...
Of course, John Morgan had to ask him, hey, have you checked in with Eddie Hearn? You know, the guy that, is calling you out on a fight, the guy that you call the P word. Have you checked in on him? Oh, yeah, John Morgan had to ask, man. I love John Morgan, man. Shout out to John Morgan.
Obviously won't be ready for the Whitehouse fight, so that's why it's an interim title fight.
Nice. Can you share with us what the fight was that fell out?
That's not important.
Fair enough.
It's not important. It's Peter Yan and Sean O'Malley. That's why Ayman Zahabi is in here. Otherwise, why would Ayman Zahabi be in here? And this is no disrespect to Ayman Zahabi. MP says cutting off American ties would have serious implications for monetary wealth of their country. Yes and no, okay? On normal circumstances, yes. If it was under circumstances because now you're fighting Iran and now they're getting the butt end of it, I think they would be willing to, sort of, rethink their strategy on that. He says Powhatan will understand. MP says, yeah, but these Arabs have heavily invested in the United States weaponry that requires us to maintain them and also our trade agreements. You know what, man? You know what, MP? I'm not a guy that sticks behind behind my opinions, right? I don't die on the hills of my opinion. I may have an opinion, but you can easily change my opinion if you present something to me that is intelligent enough and compels me to think, you know what? Maybe you're right about something. Those times when the Saudis were buying in weapons from the United States, I started thinking to myself, what is Donald Trump's chess game here? Or I wouldn't give him all the credit of that. I mean, just Americans, period. What is the American, chess game here? And it's this. We give you guns, we give you weapons so that you can go and fight the Iranians. Oh, we gave you guns and we gave you ammunition. Now you don't want to fight them? What was the point of us doing that in the first place? So, okay, I think I understand what you're saying. Now, I see the gameplay, so I see where you're saying. He says, yes and no, we're probably the greatest importer of oil. He says, from all said countries mentioned. Okay. I see what you're saying now. You may have slightly changed my mind on on certain things. And you know what? Look, I hope people out there can be more like this, right? You see something that you think is what it is, and somebody presents to you something that makes more sense. You got to go with that. I am telling you people, you have to learn how to change your mind for the betterment of your education and for the betterment of your understanding and for the betterment of your overall intelligence. But then again, a lot of you don't have emotional intelligence like some of you in the chat. Like, for example, that idiot Emily that's in here that's constantly harassing me. I mean, I don't know what your problem is talking about I need Jesus or this and that. I'm like, hey, listen, by the end of the day, I have my religion, you have yours. Why can't we be like that? Like, you didn't think I was going to address you, you stupid ass cunt? Huh? You didn't think that I was going to address you because I was pretending for a second that I wasn't going to address you? Well, now you're probably still watching somewhere, and now you're probably dumbfounded like, oh my God, he just mentioned me. Yeah, I just lured you into this. I was going to pretend that I was not going to mention your name so that you can feel safe, so that you can feel secure, and the next thing you know, boom! Just like that. Just like that. See you next Tuesday, you cunt ass biatch! Boom! You filthy crusader bitch. That's what I gotta say to you. What do you think about that? Say something now. Say something now. Say something now. I lured you into that. I gave you a Mayweather counter shot, okay? That's exactly what I did to you, okay? I lured you in there. Nobu says, you have to do your own research in life. A lot of people need to read a mentally challenged book to stimulate the mind. Yes, we call that the Trojan horse. Facts, man. Facts. You know, she's over there talking smack. She talked smack in the last stream. She didn't think that I was going to address her because I blocked her. I didn't block her this time. Well, now that I didn't block you, I need you to say something right now. Okay, what do you think about that? Okay, what do you think about that? What do you think about the fact that your kids are going to hate you for the rest of your life because you're probably a miserable bitch? Ooh, you got roasted. All right, back to Dana White.
Last thing I want to ask you, again, today there were some weird reports of betting irregularities around Michael Johnson and Drew Dober.
Yeah.
Obviously, the fight happened, so it wasn't concerning, but was there legitimacy to this again? Did this happen again? Like,
Yeah, no, zero. And a weird post that somebody posted that a kid was kidnapped and some crazy shit, all bullshit.
Dana, you talked about you don't want to say what fight fell out, which is fair enough, but there is obviously...
Well, there's weird circumstances around it that we probably shouldn't talk about.
Okay. There is speculation, of course, that it's Jon Jones.
No, it's not.
Was Jon
Never, ever, ever, which I told you guys 100,000 times, was Jon Jones even remotely in my mind to fight at the White House. I wouldn't. First of all, I've told you why. I wouldn't do it. And number two, some guy with, meta glasses on filmed him talking about his hips, that his hips are so bad. And I don't know if you guys saw that flag football game where he can barely run. Jon Jones he retired because of his hips. He's got arthritis in his hips. Apparently he's been, doctors say he should have hip replacement. So add that on top of all the other reasons that I wouldn't. The Jon Jones thing is bullshit.
In other words, he's trying to say Jon Jones is a security threat to a White House card, okay? He's volatile. You don't know what he's going to do. And then on top of that, if he's in Washington, D.C. during fight week, you don't know what he's liable to do, okay? Washington, D.C. is not like any other city in the United States, okay? You really have to be on your best behavior when you're in Washington, D.C. And Jon Jones is not exactly that guy to be in that kind of city. I mean, he can get away with stuff like that in LA. He can get away with stuff like that when he's in Vegas because Uncle Dana runs Vegas. Uncle Dana runs the police force in Vegas, okay? Let's really, I hope I'm not snitching here by saying that, but that's, I think people know what they know, and we know enough about Dana White to understand that, yeah, that's a reality of him, right? He runs the Las Vegas Police Department, just like Suge Knight ran the Compton Police Department in the 90s. So in other words, whenever he gets in trouble, Uncle Dana gets on the phone, and next thing you know, everything is all good and all of that. MP says, if I was walking in the woods, I'd choose the bear over Jon Jones, hip or no hip. You would choose the bear over Jon Jones. Okay.
I'm not saying they weren't talking to Jon Jones and that Jon Jones wasn't interested in the fight. And what was even crazier is Jon Jones came out and was like, I'm in negotiations right now for the White House fight.
Dana White is exposing Jon Jones right now for the lies that he just told a group of people in front of a room.
After I had already sent a text to his lawyer saying, never going to happen ever.
Is it fair to say that Jon Jones is retired and this is the end of his time?
Yes. Very fair.
For the White House card, have you decided yet? Is it still in the works? How much is Paramount Plus? If there's CBS portions, what are we looking at for the broadcast itself?
Well, we got a lot of the logistics done. We went out there and presented it to the president and his team. and now we'll get into all of that stuff. Still so much work to do for this fight. Literally, Craig Borsari, head of production, this is all he works on now. Nothing else till it's over.
You said to Joe Rogan earlier that actually this card was not as easy as you thought to build. You obviously aren't going to tell us the fight that fell out, but is this one of those things that we'll never find out, that behind the scenes there was a lot of crazy shit going on with making this card? And we'll wonder.
I disagree. I think you will find out at some point, right? They will make a 30 for 30 ESPN documentary, and they'll be like, you remember the time when UFC made UFC Whitehouse Freedom Fight 250, the anniversary of America, 250th birthday. Oh my goodness, it's going to be a big documentary. Whether it's Netflix or whether it's 30 for 30 at ESPN or whether it's Showtime Sports or whoever is going to pick it up, it's going to be the biggest documentary ever, right? Maybe even Death Row Records film productions with Snoop Dogg will pick it up, right? Whoever will do it. That is what they're going to talk about. They're going to talk about, it was Peter Yan. He couldn't get in the fight for whatever reason, so we had to call up Ayman Zahabi. You know, oh, and we are probably really good friends with his brother, Faraz Zahabi, the trainer of the greatest of all time, George St. Pierre. We called him up and said, hey, opportunity of a lifetime. You want to fight Sean O'Malley? Sure. You know, as the only Muslim fighter in the Whitehouse card, and by the way, the most unlikely Muslim fighter in the Whitehouse card, because let's be honest, right? If you wanted a Muslim fighter in this card as a UFC fan, I don't think Ayman Zahabi was the guy you had in mind. You know what I mean? And I love the guy. The dude is my homie. And I'm telling you this, you know, as a person who's homies with Ayman Zahabi. And he knows this. But guess what? Let's say he busts Sean up at that Whitehouse, right? What do you think is going to happen to his stock? All of you that hate Sean O'Malley, hate the fact that he has this, you know, gay little zesty tendencies going on. Guess what, man? You know, Ayman Zahabi is going to be your hero after he smashes him up. So it could be good for his stock, perhaps. Okay? And then Jon Jones. Jon Jones is in there. They're going to talk about the history that he has going on, why he couldn't do it, why he shouldn't do it, and why this is not a good idea. And they're all going to explain this to you in real time, but in the future.
They find out that it was actually insane.
There's crazy shit with making every card in this business. This is a very hard business to be in and run. I mean, on a day-to-day basis. It's like a soap opera here every day.
Arnell says, why not UFC along with Mayweather and Pacquiao card? Why not UFC along with Mayweather and Pacquiao card? Elaborate on that, if you will, Arnell, please. Do you mean that to have a UFC card on the same week as Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao? Or do you mean have a hybrid card with Manny Pacquiao and Mayweather? But do you mean that in a capacity of Zuffa boxing? Or do you mean that as a hybrid MMA boxing event with Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao along with some UFC fights as well? If you could care to elaborate on your question, I would gladly answer it with, you know, the right context, of course.
Hey, but yeah, this was a fun one.
I wanted to ask about just a boxing question. Jaya Patel was meant to fight for the IBF title, and then a report came out that they were disrespected by the way you put the belt on.
Oh boy, they really are asking the hard questions. And look at Dana White's expression right now. He's like, you're not coming back here. I don't like your question. You're never getting a press pass again. Look at this. Does this look like a face of a guy that wants this guy back here?
On the press conference stage, and they've taken it away. What's going on with that?
I'll talk about that tomorrow at the boxing press conference, but yeah, I mean, what do you guys think of that? You guys are the media. I mean, this guy defended their title for 4 years and paid his sanctioning fee. The fucking guy who's the supervisor or whatever he is flies here, lands and says, hey, where's my per diem? We give him his per diem, he jumps back on the fucking plane and flies back, and they put out a press release. These guys are going to do all the work for us. These guys are going to do all the work.
Are they refunding his sanctioning fee?
Are they really what?
Are they going to give him back his sanctioning fee?
We'll see how this plays out. Yeah. But I'll talk to you tomorrow about this. Let's do UFC shit tonight.
Dan, okay.
Yep.
He said, let's do UFC shit tonight. I love that, okay? Yo, listen, ever since Dana White got into boxing, the press conferences have been even better, okay? Because now he has to deal with all this bullshit that comes with boxing and the bullshit that they want to bring into his life. So it makes his press conferences even better now. Arnell says Mayweather Pacquiao would UFC showcase under the same card, same night package. Huh? You know what? That's interesting, right? So what you're asking, Arnell, is something very similar to what the ONE FC does, or something that, let's say, what the Japanese do. Obviously, Floyd has been in a card like that. He's been in a hybrid MMA boxing card. I'm not talking about Mayweather and McGregor. That was an all boxing card. All right, I'm talking about the Ryzen card where he boxed kickboxer, and then the rest of the cards were either kickboxing or just pure MMA, but in a boxing ring, all fought in the same place. Now, what you're asking is sort of a logistical nightmare, right? Because now you're asking for a ring and a cage, unless, of course, these UFC fighters will agree to fight in a boxing ring. Now, that would be a very difficult thing to sort of request for something like that. It would be very difficult to have something like that, but it does sound ideal if you are both an MMA and a boxing fan like myself, like your boy here. I'm a boxing and I'm an MMA fan. That would be great. But I'm also a realist, and I also have a great understanding of the fight business for a very long time, and I know that that would be very difficult to have. But here's what I will tell you, though, right? We've had a lot of experiences in hybrid events here in Sacramento, right? And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I've seen Muay Thai and MMA hybrid events all rolled into one. You know, to your particular, you know, taste buds, that may vary. But, you know, for me, it seems like, I don't know, it's a different vibe. You know, it's like, yeah, it's a very different vibe. Because now you're seeing a Muay Thai fight. Next thing you're seeing an MMA fight. It's like, it's kind of like dealing with a bipolar person. Okay, if that makes any sense, right? It's like dealing with an event that's bipolar. Now, you may be okay with that, and you know, there's some guys out there that are okay being with crazy women. There's guys out there that are okay being with crazy men, or, you know, or the other way around, right? But to your taste buds may vary. Connor Sillers, BJJ says, told y'all Charles would dominate. Well, you, for those of you that said Charles would dominate, I salute to you and your predictions coming true, of course. Arnell set 100, man. Thank you, Arnell. Shout out to you on that, my man. Also, man, don't forget to hit the hype button on my page if you can, please.
Go ahead, Jose. Conor McGregor obviously tweeting a lot today. Wasn't very impressed with the fight. Says if they want, I'll spank Charlie. Obviously about Charles Oliveira. Is there any update on Conor McGregor? He did a podcast today with Chael Sonnen saying that he probably won't fight on the White House because of the amount of revenue he could bring in. So is there any update on when or if he'll fight again?
No, but we are definitely talking to Conor, obviously.
But there's no like timetable. You're just okay.
Not even close.
Dana back here.
Yep.
Earlier you had said that you were planning some big stuff in Washington, D.C. for the fans, kind of like just, you know, not just the White House event, but things they could look forward to throughout the week that were UFC related. We've also heard about International Fight Week, probably still coming in July. Can you just talk about what fans could look forward to leading up to the fight in D.C.? And like,
Yeah, obviously you can't get tickets to get into the White House fight, but the Ellipse across the street, we'll be able to hold 85,000 people over there. We're gonna have screens and fan activation over there. Ram is like giving away trucks over in the Ellipse. There's going to be all kinds of cool stuff. So even if you obviously can't get tickets, you should be in DC the week of the fight. Press conference is going to be at the Lincoln Memorial.
Okay, can I be honest with you guys? Don't look. I mean, Americans are going to do what they want to do, right? Me personally, I would not go. I would not ask anybody that I love to go. And you know what? If something bad happens, this particular clip is probably going to get clipped up. Okay, it's not a good idea. Okay, like I think that Iran is so hell-bent in what's going on right now. And you know what? Iran has been bombed, smithereens today. And you don't think that they're going to respond with reprisals? That is the scary part about this whole thing. And by the way, this is a very high-profile event. A whole group of people that's going to be in crowds. It's a scary, nightmarish situation. Okay, but at the same time, for the culture of MMA, this needs to happen. This fight needs to happen. And for the good of MMA and for the good of our sport, it all needs to go down. But I just only hope for safety with others. For me, I would not risk it for the biscuit.
It's gonna be fun.
Can't wait. I want to ask a little bit about the numbers now being on Paramount. One of the things I think a lot of people talked about is it's not just cheaper for fans who are already watching UFC, but now the new audience that cut cable and they're looking for stuff and now they're being introduced to it. Have you been given an estimation of how many new fans of the UFC are being on Paramount?
No, not yet, but like I just said, I literally just said this to him, that, the number's been massive for Paramount. We exceeded the expectations, and now that, we're not behind 2 paywalls, it's a big deal. And again, tonight, like we said earlier, being on CBS is incredible too.
Dana, just one for me. We'll talk about the lightweight division. Right here, Dana, sorry. Obviously, Charles just won the BMF title. Justin and Ilya are fighting at the White House. There's that one guy in the division, Arman Sarukian. He had an interesting weekend in Tempe last weekend. What did you make of that when you saw those antics, and where does he stand in the division?
Yeah, I don't love it. I don't love it, but, that night, that was somebody else's problem, not mine, but, yeah. That's really all I gotta say about that.
He says, I don't love it, but he said it with a smirk. He says he's smirking because he's like, good on you, Arman. Good on you. You're finally putting your name out there. This is what Arman needs. We talked about this. This is what Arman needs. He needs a little bit of that. Yeah, look at this. Look at this. Look at this Uncle Fester ass looking.
We're gonna make more guys feel like that,
Yo!
Congrats on the win too.
Look. Again, I'll rewind that.
That night, that was somebody else's problem, not mine, but, yeah.
You still have the same
That's really all I gotta say about that.
when you first called him out.
100%.
And I'm going to pause right here and check out Dana's smile. Look at this.
The division's heating up and lots of fun fights to make, and
The heat is on. The heat is on for Arman.
we'll get Arman figured out.
We'll get Arman figured out. We figured him out all right. We figured out that he's actually a marketable 155 fighter.
If you see my previous fight, it's matching for no sense of French media. First of all, congratulations for the White House. And the question is, PSG...
Oh, French media. Oh, first of all, congratulations for the White House card. Yes, you must remember. We, the French, we give you the Statue of Liberty. Now we give you Cyril Gane. And we hope that Cyril Gane destroy this Alex Pereira, because we want champion in our country. And Cyril Gane tried so many times, but he did. Yeah. Anyways, Arman had become one of the most popular fighters in a month's time. I know, bro. I know. He says, sounds like an Asian accent. Yeah, all right, man. Okay, so you know what? I can't do all the accents, right? Obviously, I do good with Russians. I do good with Arabs. I do good with Black American accents, depending on what region of the United States. But, I mean, I have my limits, okay?
Benoit Saint-Denis was supposed to fight in this card also. So he was supposed to fight Chandler, right?
Yeah.
So 3 French-speaking people were supposed to fight in the White House. Was it like on purpose for the White House to have like 3 French-speaking people inside?
Well, it was
He says your code switching is incredible. Well, there it is, right? Yeah, that's what I'm good at, right? Accents with some, but code switching is like, a perfect 10. That's like, it's okay. My code switching is like Khabib's wrestling, okay? Like I think we could agree to that.
purpose, but not because they speak French. We're always looking to put on the best fights we can with the best fighters, and obviously this card is going to get a ton of exposure. The guys who are on there, every one of these fights actually means something. They just happen to speak French.
And about Benoit Saint-Denis, do you have like other plans for him, like something booked or?
Who's that?
Benoit Saint-Denis.
Yeah.
Because he was supposed to fight on the White House.
Yeah, I think he's hurt.
And just like one last question for me about Nassourdine Imavov. He's also like number 2 of the middleweight division. So, do you have some news about him?
What did he say?
Nassourdine.
Not right now. Not right now, I don't.
If I'm here today,
Thank you.
it's because of him. And I hope I make them proud.
What's that?
There we go. I know you spoke about Armand just now, but he was in talks with Hunter Campbell about potential fights with Gaethje, Volk, and the winner of this fight, which ended up being Oliveira. I want to know what you think makes the most sense for him.
What's the question again?
Armin. Oh, you know what? I thought that would be a good fight for Armin, actually, right? Maybe Charles Oliveira at this point would be a good fight. He says, that was so cool that Nate got to hear you tonight right before he started warming up. Appreciate you, man. Yo, dude, listen, that's my heart right there. You know what I mean? Like, I love this stuff the way you guys love this stuff, whether it's me fighting or whether it's my friends fighting or whether it's one of my audience members fighting. I mean, man, listen, I love MMA, bro. I freaking love MMA, and you love it too, but yeah, this is why we do this, my man. This is why we do this, and it makes me smile just thinking about it, I don't want to cry on screen, so I'm going to refrain. I'm going to refrain myself and think about the people that I hate so much, so that I don't cry, okay? Because I don't want to cry. I don't want to cry on screen. But you know what? Here's the thing, right? It is possible to cry tears of joy. And I found myself, in MMA and fighting sports is really what brings that out of me, right? Tears of joy. For example, when Leon Edwards won, okay, and remember, I was really one of the biggest Kamaru Usman supporters ever, right? But man, when Leon Edwards said, you know what, y'all doubted me, look at me now. Y'all look at me now. Y'all doubted me. Look at me now. I'm not gonna lie to you. I cried when he did that speech. I cried. I cried tears of joy, because it's like, man, right on, Leon. You know what? You finally proved people wrong, bro. That's awesome, man. So he says Armin already mauled him. Okay. Well, oh yeah, true. But he did. But I guess you could justify a rematch. I suppose maybe not, but. I don't know, yeah. Maybe his wrestling got better this time, or maybe his wrestling just looks better with Max. Victory says, yeah, Nate teared up tonight afterwards. He needed that win. It was a big relief. There you go, right? There you go. Man, that's what it is, bro. Like, we don't cry for Celine Dion movies or My Heart Will Go On ballads or anything like that. That's just not the kind of men we are, but... men cry, people cry, people have feelings, and these are just the things that really invokes a lot of strong emotions out of us, because we love this so much. So, man, yeah, shout out to Nate, and I was glad, to have been able to speak to him through my live broadcast, and then him, doing his thing while I was doing my thing as well, right here on the media side of things. So, yeah, man, Allahu Akbar, is what I got to say to that. He says the fight was so boring tonight. Wow, there you go, JD Vance in the house. You know what, man? When you came to my Charlie Kirk live stream, I think, you told me you weren't much of an MMA guy. So now, did you become an MMA guy because of this, channel? Is that how it is? He says, stick to politics, man. No, for real, genuinely, I'm curious to know, right? Because, we all come into MMA differently. Obviously, Zayn, when I met Zayn, man, he was a pure boxing guy. He didn't like MMA at all. He thought that, you know, MMA was, you know, was weird. You know, a lot of boxing guys think MMA is weird. You know, they think it's like, you know, dudes that are, you know, like rolling around or whatever. But there is someone that, you know, that gets them to watch it at some point. You know what I mean? Whether it's a fighter or whether it's a person in the media or whether it's, you know, a particular event or, you know, or just a particular poster or a particular commercial. Ali Khan says, Max got to train hour here in the States first. Okay, he's got to train out here in the States first with wrestling. Well, he is in the United States. He's just not in a part of the United States that has wrestling, which is Hawaii. Ali Khan says it's so simple. Yes. Kid Man says, the fight wasn't boring, bro. I was on edge of my seat for the entire fight. Huh. Okay, well, Kids Mania, if you were on your seat the entire fight, is it because you were a fan of Charles Oliveira or a fan of Max Holloway? Meaning that were you thinking, you know, maybe it's because, you know, that you were, you know, worried for one fight or another? Because that's the only way that or maybe you're just being sarcastic and, you know, my autism is not picking up on your sarcasm because, you know, I may take things literally. Respiratory says, not really. I watched it because my friends were watching it. Okay, fair enough. And, you know, you are, you know, within the conservative circles of things, you know, so naturally you are going to come across some guys that are just going to, you know, be into MMA. So Victory says, so Charles just took Max down and held him there for the most part. Yes. And there was one part of the 5th round where he took him down. But he got nothing out of it. And then, of course, Charles actually gave him, you know, the chance to do the 10-second man dance, if you know what I mean. You know, the whole, you know what I mean? Let's, you know, meet in the middle and, you know, and get it cracking type of thing. You know, but obviously it was one of those situations that was a little too late. Ali Khan says, yeah, the fight was most boring of the main. Okay, that's quite harsh. You know, isn't it? You know what I mean? Very harsh there. Daniel with some cheers sign right there. I believe that's you saying cheers. Brother, listen, me, I do not drink, but I understand your sentiment. I understand what you say. You are saying cheers is okay. You cheers with beer, okay. Maybe you, me, we cheers with coffee or maybe drink water or something like that. But brother, I do not drink, brother. I am Muslim guy, you know, don't drink at all. But cheers to you as well. Those sentiments all the same, yeah? So Ali Khan says, Max must have been injured. BX, he did not even try, huh? Kid says, brother, are you fasting? Yes, I am. Yes, I am fasting. I am fasting for Ramadan. How about that, man? We are like day 17 right now, so we got about 12 days left. He says, George Cook says, Ali, that's a casual take. He says, I'm Muslim too, and I am fasting. Oh, awesome, man. What part of the world are you from, Kids Mania? Let me know what part of the world you're from, brother. What else? What else was here? Okay, yeah, I think I read oh, okay, you're from... do you live in Pakistan or do you live somewhere else, meaning that maybe you're from Pakistan originally through your parents, or do you live somewhere in the West that, you know, may be an English-speaking country of some sort, if you don't mind letting me know of the details. Okay, you live in Jeddah. Okay, so you're Arabic. So you're from Saudi. Okay, that's awesome, man. Ya Haifa Halik, Ramadan Kareem, Ya Akhi. You know what I mean? So, yeah, you know, I have some family in Jeddah and Riyadh as well. He says, got taken down by Connor. JJ says, Salam, brother. Max has never fought a grappler. He was bound to get exposed. Facts. And you know what I was thinking? I was thinking, if he would have fought Khabib in 2018, boy, we would have now known how that fight would have went. You know, I think we known how that fight would have went. You know, from that point on, right? I think that's safe to say. Ali Khan says yes, but that was a long time ago. Yes, facts. He was my favorite. Who was? Max was your favorite? Is that what you were trying to say? That Max was your favorite?
I know.
Yeah.
Said he spoke to Hunter.
Yeah, got it. I don't know. I'm not thrilled with Armin right now. You know, and there's a lot of different reasons. It's not just the stuff that you see publicly.
Yeah, he says, I always thought Max had good takedown defense. Not tonight, you know, but then again, styles make fights, right? Ali Khan says betting favorite.
But, yeah,
Care to elaborate on any of those reasons?
no.
Dana, with those antics with Armin, is that gonna make you hesitant to let these guys compete in the RAF? Because it seems like that
No. Listen, there's plenty of guys that wrestle that have, you know, been respectful with other guys that they wrestled, and I understand there was some back and forth with both of those guys, but where there's smoke, there's fire, and Armin's been smoking a lot lately, so, yeah.
He says Armin's been smoking a lot. So let me guess, he probably got caught with weed in his system, and probably that was one of the reasons why maybe you couldn't book him in the fight. Maybe because, you know, look, the UFC is now pretty lenient in smoking weed, right? You know, they just say, look, you can't do it in the day of the fight. They said you want to do it a week before the fight. You want to do it, you know, on the last day of your sparring, a week before your fight, or 2 weeks before your fight. Go be my guest, right? But don't, maybe that's, yeah, I feel like Dana is sort of, you know, throwing some subliminals here.
Hey, Dana, over here. I know you said there's nothing planned.
He says, bro, don't take it literally. I know. I got to get out of that. That's, you know, a bit of my autism there, you know, kicking in. Sorry.
But I just was wondering what you thought about, because Conor McGregor said he recently wants to fight the winner of tonight, and Oliveira won. What would you think about McGregor versus Oliveira fight?
That guy just asked me that 2 seconds ago.
I thought-
Yeah,
yeah,
that was
right,
gonna happen, yeah.
Well deserved, brother. But this is haram, brother. But you know, no, I cannot. You listen. You ask me, okay? I say, Zen, come with me. You go with these guys, okay? Don't do this. You go with these guys, Zen. I know you want to go with these guys. Yalla, okay? Not me. You know, Zen, Nate, Zen, smoke, go.
We have no date for Conor right now.
I was trying to get Zayn to get on tonight, but, you know, I think this card was a little bit too niche for him. You know what I mean? He says, yeah, hopefully Zayn didn't bet on Max. Well, you know what? He didn't ask me, so I don't think he bet on any UFC lately. I hope he's not betting at all, man. You know what I mean? Man, yeah, this is not a good time to bet. Not because, you know, of bad matchups or really like 50-50 matchups that are kind of like iffy, but you know what I mean. It's not a good time to bet, period. So Jose Perez says, you should look at Joe Rogan's special 4 months ago with the whistleblower for waterboarding. He was calling out the Democrat Party. Wow, okay.
Not even close, so.
And another thing about you said recently, you said you would want to box Eddie Hearn. Was that serious or was that a joke?
No, it's serious and a joke. I'm fucking 50s.
Okay, so now we can confirm this, right? Once and for all. All right, because I actually made a members-only video on this, right? I urge you guys to come to my members-only, right? Only $1 a month. You know what I mean? I have another tier for my members-only also. You know, it's, well, it's a lot to do with Islamic eschatology and, you know, and Muslim teachings that deal with the end times, right? Very, you know, secretive stuff, right? That's, you know, a little bit on the higher tier. That's like $2 a month, right? The Fighters Secrets tier is like $1 a month. That's where I have my members only video on Dana White and Eddie Hearn boxing, right? So once and for all, he's confirming it right here as I have predicted right here.
6 years old, I shouldn't be fucking boxing anything. The last time I even tried to get ready to box was for Tito. I was 38, and that was a fucking nightmare, okay? And Eddie Hearn's a pussy. He don't want to fucking box anybody. Come on. Fucking Eddie Hearn.
Well, no, he's actually serious, Dana. You know what I mean? He may not want to box anybody, you know, that's real in boxing, or just box any, you know, random bloke in, you know, in a gym that's, you know, that's worth a punch of anything, right? But, He'll box you. He will absolutely box you. That's what I really believe, that Eddie Hearn would box Dana White. And obviously, Dana White refusing that fight or refusing that boxing match, I think is just indicative of what I think, or what I think I know how that fight would end. And that would end badly for Dana White. I think Eddie Hearn, yeah, would put it on him. I mean, come on, man. Eddie Hearn has been around boxing his whole life. You know what I mean? He may not have, competed in it long enough, but, his eyes are literally trained, to understand what is going on in the boxing ring. It would be bad. It would be bad for Dana White, bro. You know what I mean? That is Eddie Hearn's fight to win. Oh, some chill guy. Shout out to you. I like your name, man. That's a very interesting screen name. He says, some chill guy says, Whitehouse card should have been Topuria versus Gaethje, Jones versus Pereira, Jan versus O'Malley, McGregor versus Chandler, Rufi versus Yair, and Lopez versus Garcia. Well, Lopez and Garcia are that. And remember, they put Garcia in here because he's a friend of Charlie Kirk. You know what I mean? That's all there is to it. Like, I mean, he really was a personal friend of Charlie Kirk. Like, Charlie Kirk was going to show up at one of his fights until, that unfortunate incident happened. So, he's there through political reasons. And I also think that about Ilia Topuria as well. I mean, yes, is Ilia Topuria a big star? Yes. Is he a champion? Yes. But I also think there was a political reason to get him in there, and that's that. Leo Lopez says, do you like Trump? As a person, yes. As a politician, no. And that's not a snide at him in anything, because, you shouldn't like any politicians, period. Now, do I like Trump? Would I like to go golfing with him? Oh, absolutely. Oh, would I like to sit down and talk UFC with Trump, or watch a UFC fight with Trump? Oh, absolutely. Would I like to fight in front of Trump? Would I like to do a boxing match in front of Trump and try to impress him? Of course. But as a politician, I know how to separate myself from liking someone and, and also not liking their politics, So I kind of have a really emotional, intelligent, approach to, how I feel about the guy, and I think the world should as well. That is, if you see what I see in terms of what he does for the world and the consequences that he brings, but also understanding that he is just a normal person like everyone else that that you may meet, that may be a cool person, right? So in other words, he's a cool person, but nobody's a cool person when you have the whole world in your hands and the the responsibility of perhaps bringing death to other human beings, or ultimately changing their life and their their course of standards of living. You know what I mean? And which that he has to do. Leo Lopez says, normal person, bro. I could never hang with a racist or a pedo. Okay. Racist, Yes and no. Yes and no. I'm going to say yes and no. The reason why I say yes and no, and look, I want you to understand, I'm trying to be very objective about this, right? Look, if I'm sure you're probably new to the channel, or if not, I mean, I don't know who's new to the channel or not. You're definitely new to the chat, right? Because I don't know who watches me. There's people out there that watch me but don't comment. But what I will say is, what I emphasize on this channel is I try to be as extremely objective as possible, right? And sometimes to the detriment of, people's liking. What I will say is that he's racist, yes and no. And the reason why I say that, he grew up in a time where it was normal to think a certain way, right? If Trump was a young white kid in today's day and age and he thinks the way that he does, I would judge him differently. But because he grew up in an era with a context of this is how they think, then I'm going to judge him based on the curve. I'm going to grade him off of that curve. Okay, his curve is that, this is the era that he comes in. But if you're a white kid who's my age or younger, and and you espouse certain views, and yeah, of course I'm gonna think, yeah, I think you are kind of racist. You know what I mean? Like, even Nick Fuentes, like, I don't think Nick Fuentes is racist, but I think the idea that he doesn't like interracial dating, I think is, I think borderline racist, right? But at the same time, he doesn't go out of his way to stop, people that are, what do you call it? That, that have interracial relationships or anything like that. I don't think he goes out of his way to do that. But Leo Lopez says he called black kids criminals. He said they are criminals before they grow up. Like, what the F from our own president. Huh? He said that? When did he say that? Let me know when he said that, just out of curiosity. George Cook says, I am racist. Well, at what point, are you, you know what? Okay. Before I finish the Dana White press conference, right? Let's address this real quick, okay? Let's address this. I'm going to tell you a story, okay? A story that I had, going on in the gym, right? This may explain some things. This may not explain some things, but let me see if I can. Let me see if I can remember this off the top of my head, right? If I can, sort of give you, okay. Let's see here. Hold on a second here. Hold on a second. I'm gonna get to I'm gonna get to your comment. He says when you get a chance. A while back, look up the video, brother. Okay, I'm definitely gonna look into that video. Okay, because remember, look, I can easily change my mind if I am given, the right, set of circumstances or the right set of ideas that can be proven otherwise. You know what I mean? I am not above my ideas. I don't, die on the hill of my ideas. I die on the hill of the truth. Because as Muslims, that is the one thing that we emphasize on is the truth, right? We don't, we're not caught up in our own feelings. We are caught up in the truth. There is a thing in Arabic called the haqq, right? Hold on. I didn't lose my train of thought about, that racist comment that I wanted to tell you. I'm trying to remember the story that I had going on at the gym. Let me see here. Let me see if I can. Okay, because I remember posting about it on social media, and I really want to address what you said because it's really important that you hear what I say. Right? I think it kind of goes into like a bit of some biasness of of certain kinds. Right? Like okay, so. Look, a lot of you may not like what I have to say about this, right? Yeah, yo man, yeah, you guys might not like what I'm about to say, but all right, let's fire it up anyway, okay? So let's see here. I need to find this post first so that I can kind of remember this story because it kind of goes along with what you're saying when you said that. Hey, look, I'm racist or this and that. What's his name? George here said that he's racist. So, because what I'm trying to say is that, look, I think we're all racist to a certain degree. I think we're all racist to a certain degree, and this is yeah, this is kind of important. Hold on. Oh wow. Okay, this was a while ago that I wrote this. Okay. All right, so let me read. Okay, so George. This is, by the way, in response to George Cook. Okay, he says Leo Lopez says I respect everyone, brother. Democrat, Republican, white, brown, GAY, straight, but in truth, and the right thing to do is to do things. You feel me? Okay. He said, dude, I just saw the Whitehouse card. What an epic fail. Yeah, not really a special card at all.
Victory. Obviously, everyone knew he had the ability to win this fight, but I don't think many people saw.
Let me pause this with Charles Oliveira. He says, not really. He says, it's okay, bro. Say it. We all have our own views and opinions. And Victory says, we are. Okay, so look, here's the thing, all right? This is no disrespect to my white homies, okay? But can we all admit we're a little bit racist, okay? And this is the gym story that I wanted to tell you guys, right? I saw this Syrian man, okay? He had a Northern European ginger appearance to him, right? I didn't know he was an Arab man. I want to put that in context first, right? So first, I run across this Syrian man who looks like he was Northern European with a ginger accent. So in other words, with a ginger appearance. So in other words, he looked like, you know, Canelo Alvarez, or he looked like Prince Harry, something like that, right? Okay, so he bumped into me in the gym. You know what I did? I berated him. Like Tupac did Bad Boy in the Hit 'Em Up record. That's how bad I berated him, okay? Number one, I didn't know he was Arab. First of all, he was clean shaved. There was zero indication that he was a Sunni Muslim Arab man, which I later found out he was a Sunni Muslim Arab man, okay? And this was right after I berated him. I saw that he was with a hijabi woman, okay? And then I put two and two together and I realized, wait a minute, this is a Sunni Arab man who's the same race and the same religion as me, okay? And then after I found that out, I immediately apologized in great shame and disgust for myself that I would treat him this way. Now, it has nothing to do with him being white or anything like that. I'm just saying that because he was Arab and because he was a Sunni Muslim, I felt compelled to apologize. If he was white or if he was Latino or if he was any other race, I don't think I would have apologized to this man. Now, does that make me a racist? Be honest with me. On the comment section right now, would this make me a racist? Because, you know, if he was Brazilian or if he was, you know, Hawaiian, you know, or if he was anything that wasn't who he was, I would not have apologized. I apologized to him because he was a Sunni, you know, Syrian Arab man. Okay? He says, yeah, I make racist jokes with my buddies all the time, but I don't actually hate a certain race. You feel me? I see everyone as equal unless they disrespect me, then we go in platinum. Facts. Okay. He says, right, stereotypes are hilarious, Marty says. Okay, so what do you guys think about that? Like that story that I told you, you know, I was very hesitant to tell this story because I don't know how this is going to come out. I don't know how, you know, if somebody would look at me, you know, the wrong way after this, or, you know, maybe make it seem like that I have, you know, a certain, you know, biasness towards certain people, which certainly isn't the case. All I'm saying is that if he was anybody else, okay, and if he was not, you know, a Muslim man, I would have been okay with berating him. And then plus, you know, you guys have seen me in the live stream at the gym. You know, I'm a bit of I can be a bit of a bully in the gym. You know what I mean? And obviously now that I film my workout sessions, you know, I kind of have proof that that's, you know, the reality of how I am. But because I'm just so pumped up, you know, while I'm in there, you know, that I'm not thinking about anything else. But, you know, sorry, but not sorry. You know, that's what it is. He says, doesn't make you racist. Okay, so thank you. Spice says, Jesus saved, he died. Okay, so yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, you know, Spice Jake, whatever your name is. Okay, let's get back to Dana White, and then we'll continue on.
Boxing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He said he would. He said he would. He said he'd spark you out.
Listen, if that's what, then fucking fly out here. We'll go over to the Apex and we can box. And last night, Callum Walsh was telling me, he's like, we were power slapping. He's like, this thing would be, you should do it. You should do it. I'll fight on the undercard. I said, you'll fight in the undercard. If two fucking bums like us were going to do that, we'd be the first prelim of the night. It would be disrespectful to every guy who's a real fighter on that card to be under us. We'd be the first prelim of the night. And that would be fucking embarrassing.
Dana said him and Hearn would be, you know, the prelims, because he just wants to get it over with. You know, I don't think Dana wants to sit there in the locker room and wait for hours and hours, watch other guys fight, and then, you know, having to like build up your nerves. He wants to get it over with straight away. I think that's primarily the premise of Dana White right there.
Speaking of prelims, earlier today there was a fight where the lights kind of went out inside the arena. I'm not sure if you caught that.
What was it?
I remember that. Yeah, I remember seeing some lights go out while in the middle of a fight. I forgot which fight it was, but it was very early in the prelims.
Tonight? I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Oh, the lighting grid? That's weird. The power went out last night at Power Slap, too.
I saw no one's be in the air.
Rough weekend for us.
Obviously, you said there that the matchmakers presented you with options that would be available for the White House and that you would pick the card. Was Ilia Topuria and Justin Gaethje like your pick all along to be the main event for the White House?
Well, we literally had, I don't know, 15, 20 fights to choose from, you know, from the top to the bottom of the card, which is 6. We were at 7, actually. I added one more, and then when the other one fell out, we went back to 6, but there were lots of things in play. There were lots of different fights in play for the White House. And then this is the card that I ended up picking.
Dana over here. We obviously saw RDR lose his fight. It's his second loss in the UFC now. What do you think would be a good plan for him, moving up to 205 or checking out 185?
I don't know. In my opinion, he didn't look like he really wanted to be in there tonight. That didn't look like the same guy to me tonight. I don't know. Has he been through here yet? No? I mean, you guys might want to ask him. I don't know if he had a bad camp or he's whatever. I don't know. Just in my personal opinion, I literally text the Max Major and says, to me, does he look like he does not want to be here tonight?
Thank you, Dana.
Yep.
Dana, right here. Just to double back on something Gabriel was talking about. At one time, you said the White House card was going to be International Fight Week. Is it not
He did. RDR definitely looked bad, man.
going to be International Fight Week now?
No.
Okay.
I know Kayla Harrison was someone that a lot of people thought might be on that card. We haven't really heard.
Talked about her too, but she had surgery. I mean, when we were talking about that fight, it was something crazy. Like in 24 hours, she found out that she needed to go in and get emergency neck surgery. 24, 48 hours, whatever it was.
Do you know how she's doing now? Is she going to be out for a while?
Did what?
How is she doing now?
I think she's doing good. Yeah, she's recovering.
And,
She had neck surgery, like not long ago. The last thing you want to do when you have...
So I tell you what, maybe Kayla Harrison, I think maybe Kayla Harrison was also the other person in the card that was, you know, that couldn't make it. You know what? I look at it like this. America was founded by men. Okay? And now it's going to end being fought by men in the White House. How symbolic. Good riddance, right? See you in the next card, not in the White House.
Neck surgery is get punched in the fucking face by Amanda Nunes, you know what I mean? Or her pulling on your head or neck. So we'll give her as much time as she needs to heal.
Yeah, and then you've been asked about Alex going to heavyweight for years at this point. You've kind of had mixed feelings on it. Why did you guys ultimately feel like this was...
Well, Marty, I will say, right, obviously I'm joking with what I'm saying, right? But the sentiment is not too far off from the reality of what, you know, what I kind of stand for as a Muslim. Like, look, Khabib was asked in Saudi Arabia by a female guest member, right? He was doing a Q&A in Saudi Arabia. A Saudi woman asked him, hey, what can I do to become, you know, an elite female MMA fighter? You want to know what Khabib said to this Saudi woman? He said, learn how to smash your husband at home. Okay? That's it. You learn how to smash your husband at home, and you learn how to smash the stove. That's what he said. That's what he said. And you know what? As a red-blooded Muslim male, like himself and myself, I'm not going to disagree with that. You know, Uzbek says, Dana let us down. I was expecting much more than that. Well, I tell you what, man, just understand that they try the best that they can do, right? It's kind of like this, right? You ever done a school project? You ever done a school project where you were crunched for time, or maybe even a work project, right? It kind of came half-assed because there was a lot of things going on. Maybe you didn't find the right equipment. Maybe you didn't find the right tools. Or maybe you didn't, you know, have the right people to cooperate with you to, you know, get it done. And so as a result, it didn't come out 100% to the way that you did. So instead of earning a B for that grade, you got an A for that grade, you got a B. Or, you know, instead of a B, maybe you got a C and it was good enough to pass and you were okay with that. This right here is good enough to pass, right? It's a White House card. It's on the lawn of the White House. The spectacle of it just being in the White House, I think, is more of the attraction than the actual fighters itself. And I think if you are the promotion of the UFC, that is how you would cope with that reality. So,
you know, Alex Pereira is this guy that he wants to fight everybody, you know, every single weekend. He's one of the most unique.
He says, right, I can't believe they've been hyping this card so much, then release this crap. I mean, that's all that they could do, you know, but you're right. The sentiment is something that I feel with you guys.
Nika. Guys we've ever dealt with. And, you know, we all agree that if this is what he wants to do, he deserves it.
And a big piece of this fight will be his pursuit of a belt in a third division, which has never happened before.
Yeah.
We thought maybe if it would be like, you know, 145, 155, 170 or something. How incredible.
All right, so I got to tell you, right, this is what I wanted to speak on about Alex Pereira and the belt, because obviously I spoke about every single one of the fights in the card except for this one, right? I spoke about the main event. I spoke about, you know, Bo Nickel and Kyle Dawkins. I spoke about, you know, Steve Garcia and Lopez. I spoke about Ayman and Sean O'Malley. Now I'm going to speak about this, right? Will Alex Pereira go down as the greatest of all time? Yes and no. Although 3 championships is a great accomplishment in and of itself, there will be an asterisk attached to it. It's an interim belt. And suppose he gets the interim belt, now he has to fight Tom. Now he has to fight either Tom or John. It looks like he's just either going to fight Tom at this point, right? Because John, from the confirmation of Dana White, is totally out because of his hips. John is just stringing all of us along to try to keep his name in the algorithm. I think that's what's really going on, and I think we finally exposed that, just indicative of what Dana White is saying and also some of the accounts that John is saying. So now that we've established that, I think that if Alex Pereira was to win this, it would be an asterisk to his name. But at the same time, you also got to understand, when he left the 185 division, he got knocked out by Izzy. You see what I'm saying? So he's a big game hunter, but he's not a George St. Pierre, nor is he a Khabib, nor is he a Jon Jones. He's just a big game hunter, just like Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is probably more accomplished than Khabib. Would you agree? Khabib is way more, less accomplished than Conor McGregor. But we all know the reality behind that, if you know what I mean. So that's kind of where Alex is at, right? It's a great accomplishment if he can even get past Cyril Gane. But man, Cyril Gane is huge. And I think that he will just go down, whether win or lose, as just a big game hunter fighter, and not necessarily as a long-term champion. But ultimately, that's what makes him fun, okay? What makes Alex Pereira fun is that he can lose. And a lot of people can relate to that more than they can relate to a Floyd Mayweather, a Khabib Nurmagomedov, a Rocky Marciano, or a Joe Calzaghe, all these guys that retired undefeated. George Cook says, what do you think about wrestling heavy style? I think it's the most effective style in MMA. The Uzbek says, as a big Khabib, as a big fun, I think what you mean to say is a big fan of Khabib, I agree that Conor did more than others for MMA. Correct, yes. It just so happens that Khabib is the superior fighter. Well, if Alex Pereira wins this belt, he's an accomplished fighter. But even with the streak and the trajectory that Israel Adesanya is at right now, Israel Adesanya is still the better fighter, at least in the modern context of when their last outing came about. Not their, series that they had with kickboxing, or even the wins that Alex Pereira has on Izzy during their series. Samuel Pronto says, I got Cyril, but Pereira is full of surprises, which is why he will always be a fun fighter, and that is why he's going to make this fight fun. Samuel Pronto says hi. Okay, I think you pressed the little button there while you were making a comment, and you just decided to press send hi. Hi. Hello, how are you? Once again, you know what I mean? I think you meant to press hi first and then say, I got Cyril gone, but Pereira is full of surprises. And then you said hi before, but you said hi after, no problem. Yes, sir, yes, so you understand. Jack Moss says, Oliveira is so boring. You know what? He was exciting up until tonight. How about that, right? He was never a boring fighter, but tonight, sometimes you got to be a boring fighter to win certain fights, and that is also indicative of Khamzat taking on Dricus.
Well, is it that he's going for it at 85, 205
So true.
heavyweight?
It's absolutely incredible. And, you know, we'll see how it plays. You know, Cyril Gane is a very interesting fight for him because Cyril Gane.
Hey guys, I got one more like just to make it 10. Somebody please be kind. Give me one like for just one more like. I have 9 likes. I'd like to make it 10. Just make it a double-digit even number. Would you please? If you could kindly help. Thank you. Samuel Pronto says tonight he came in to win. He doesn't stand and bang Oliveira for the win. He says 100%. Oh, thank you for that. Like, I think that was you, Samuel. So thank you, my man.
Doesn't move like a lot of heavyweights move, so should be a very fun fight.
Thank you, Dan.
Yep. Good? All right. Good night, guys. Thank you.
All right, so guys, I'm gonna go over the whole entire card, and then we'll call it a night, right? You know, because I think you know, I definitely need to get some rest. Obviously, it's Ramadan, as you know, and yeah, man, you know, let's see, let's go over the card tonight, okay? From top to bottom, we're gonna start at the top, and then we're gonna work all the way down to the bottom. So, okay, let's see here. All right, so from the very top of the card, okay, so we had Charles do Bronx Oliveira. Okay, so obviously Charles Oliveira, 5 out of 13 takedowns in this fight. The striking percentage was also on his side. The volume was also on his side, but I think the majority of those strikes came from the ground and really neutralized Max's game. In the 5th round, that was the only time that Max had a chance to even do anything, but it was a little too late. By that point, Charles let him back up and obliged him with a 10-second man dance, and it was a little too late. Charles Oliveira won. A lot of people thought it was controversial considering the fact that, hey, you know, he's supposed to be the BMF, but what exactly is the criteria of the BMF, or are we just trying to win at any way that we can? I don't know. But, you know, a win is a win regardless of the criterias of titles or stereotypes that come with those titles and imaginary rules that doesn't apply to MMA. By the end of the day, MMA is still grappling, striking, submission, and Charles Oliveira displayed that regardless of the theme behind a title and regardless of the theme behind a headline of a card. And that's that. Caio, he fought like Roy Jones tonight. Put his hands down because he had no respect for the striking of Renier de Ridder. Not only that, he also didn't respect his grappling. He took him down a few times, had some good wrestling exchanges with him. But by the end of the day, Caio was the better striker and ultimately was the better MMA fighter. Rob Font versus Raul Rojas Jr. 16 takedowns. Sometimes takedowns don't always win fights. They don't always win fights. This time they do, especially when you do it to a point where the other guy couldn't do anything to you, and that's exactly what Rojas did. The body locks that he put on him, the fact that he got on his back, he got on top of him, the ground control time. That is what Rojas won with this fight. Now, what's interesting about Rojas, he's very young. Like, we're talking about like 21 years old, right? So he didn't go out and wrestle in college, didn't have all the time in the world to wrestle in high school, but his wrestling is absolutely impressive. And that is what won him this fight. And Chiwiwi it is. That is how he celebrates. Off he goes to that night and celebrates for the victory. Drew Dober knocking out Michael Johnson. Look, man, these guys can knock out anybody at any time, but these guys can also be knocked out at any time, and that is why this fight was exciting. By the end of the day, it was Drew Dober that drew the blood and knocked Michael Johnson out, and that was all she wrote. It was a great fight, exciting fight nonetheless for as long as it had lasted. And, man, the volume on the part of Michael Johnson was really high up there. And you know what? Michael Johnson could have easily done this to Drew Dober as well. Dustin Poirier said that it doesn't make sense the type of power that Michael Johnson has, right? He's got underrated knockout power. He could have done this to Drew Dober, but Drew Dober did it to him first, and that was all she wrote. Rodriguez. I honestly thought Bruno would have put up a better fight. Maybe he would have if he didn't knock him out early, but he got him with that overhand right, and that was all she wrote. Down goes Bruno. And then right after that, we don't even talk about Bruno. And if you got kids, you probably know that song that I'm talking about as play on with words. Cody Garbrandt versus Long Zhao. Now, this probably was the most controversial fight of the night. Okay? The most controversial fight of the night. 3 times this guy fouled Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt did not look like he wanted to be in there until he got kicked in his family jewels and he decided, you know what, man, you're not about to destroy my reproductive system. I'm going to fight for my reproductive system. I'm going to come out and destroy you. George Cook says Long won. Maybe, but those 2 points that were deducted is the reason why he didn't win. And as a result, Cody Garbrandt came out here with a victory, and that was all she wrote. Look at the stats here, right? The guy probably had a better grappling than Cody Garbrandt, was more active than Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt, look at the striking percentage on him, right? It wasn't throwing a lot of volume. That was all she wrote right there. It was the fouls that won him the fight. So I might have to agree with George Cook, but in the books, it is Cody Garbrandt that won because of that. Dante Johnson, this is a guy who never really went all 3 rounds. Now, when you have a prospect in boxing, one of the biggest things that boxing trainers tell you to do is go all 5 rounds, go all 8 rounds, and if you get to that level of, let's say, domestic championship, go all 10 rounds. That is what he did tonight. He went all 15 minutes, 3 rounds in a regular mixed martial arts fight of a prelims or an undercard and got a decision and didn't have to necessarily rely on his power. Now, Cody Brundage was doing pretty good, showing why he was the veteran compared to Dante. But by the end of the day, Dante was the prospect, and Cody Brundage was just the 50-50 journeyman fighter who was a veteran that could give him some problems, give him a bit of some looks on how it feels like to go all 5 rounds. And that was what Dante Johnson had experienced tonight. Ricky Turquoise. Really weird how he was sort of stomping around, kind of like, oh, you know, like, just, I don't know what he was doing. He was just like, like stomping on the floor, like trying to scare him. It was a good back and forth, but by the end of the day, he shot in, right? As soon as he shot in, he got in that anaconda choked him, right? And then afterwards, guess what he did? Okay, he shouts out, I think a family member of his that passed away. And then his boys, his corner, was in there shooting in on him, practicing that same thing that he did with the anaconda choke, right? That counter anaconda choke from the sprawl position that he hit on Ricky Turquoise. He emulated that like 4 or 5 times after the fight, after the Joe Rogan post-fight interview. It was great. It was a great display of submission and great display of mixed martial arts overall. Cody Durden and Naim, obviously Naim, you know, was out grappling him here. Yeah, great back and forth fight. Very even fight though. Could have gone either way, but man, I think Naim just looked like the more dominant fighter in the end, and that was the reason why he won the decision on that one. In the prelims, Sue wins against Jose Aguilar. 4 out of 5 takedowns, 1 out of 5 takedowns for Jesus. had the volume on his side, had the percentage striking on his side. Ultimately, that is what won him the fight. Dayar gets the decision win against Rafael Tobias. The striking on Dayar looked really good. Okay, looked really good. So it's ultimately what won him the fight was his striking. This one right here was a back and forth fight right here. He says Cody kind of gave up. I agree. This right here was a back and forth, right? Luke Fernandez rocked Rodolfo a couple of times, only for Rodolfo to come back and knock him out, finish him off, TKO. Man, listen, it was one of those fights that was a great first round type of fights, right? One of those fights that kind of remind me of Paul Daly and Nick Diaz, right? One of those one-round wars. This was one of them, a back-and-forth war. You couldn't ask for more. Great fight, and what else? What else was here? That's it, man. That was it. That was all she wrote right there. That was all the fights tonight. That was all that we had going on. So, a little recap tonight, right? We went over the Whitehouse card. I told you some of the political implications that came with that, and specifically with Ilia Topuria being from Spain. And I know a lot of people say that he's not a political guy, but at the same time, you must understand he is a very popular guy in Spain. And right now, Spain does not want the United States to use their airstrips to fight Iran. So they're going to put him in the White House, right next to Donald Trump. And maybe he'll get backlash from the Spanish government or the Spanish Prime Minister himself. George Cook says, Jesus always comes back, though. Yeah, that's true. He does. He is one of those fighters. So, and then we went over the whole entire card. Very exciting card. A lot of people were not too happy with the theme of BMF because it didn't seem like a BMF type of fight. But by the end of the day, what I need you guys to understand is that MMA is MMA, and MMA emphasizes one thing. And you know what that is? Mixed martial arts. Okay? Regardless of the fact that you wanted to see a kickboxing type of fight, regardless of the fact that you wanted to see a bare knuckle type of a fight, regardless of the fact that you wanted to see blood, guts, and war, by the end of the day, sometimes you have to do what you have to do if you want to win. And sometimes you got to do things that may not be pleasing to the crowd. You got to do things that may not be liked by the crowd. Because if you're going to live your life and live your career as a fighter that just lives and dies by what the crowd wants, I'm sorry to tell you, you're going to have long-term brain damage. Serious brain damage. Charles Oliveira probably has serious brain damage already with the years that he has accumulated and the wars that he has experienced. So now we're going to make it worse. We're going to make it worse? Man, let me tell you, you have no idea the type of life that these fighters are going to live somewhere down the road. You have no idea. You only see them right now because they're healthy. You only see them right now because they're vibrant. But let me name a couple of names for you. Mark Kerr. Okay? The Smashing Machine, played by The Rock. You see how he is now. Who else? Mark Kerr. Coleman. Okay? Who else? Goodridge. BJ Penn. And one can argue these guys didn't even take a lot of serious damage, or at least significant damages in the way that you think. The other day, I saw Andre Ward interview the sister of Gerald McLennan. For those of you that don't know who Gerald McLennan is, he was the guy that got brain damaged by the father of Conor Benn. So if you're wondering why Conor Benn is such a popular fighter, it is because his dad was a former British military guy, by the way, British boxing legend, who damaged Gerald McLennan to the point where his sister, till this day, has to go and take care of him. So you can go be the BMF all you want. Nick Diaz, that's another one. Nick Diaz. Go be Nick Diaz. You want to be a BMF? How is he doing right now? Okay? People ask, hey, how's Nick Diaz doing in Stockton? You know what? Nick Diaz doesn't even know he's in Stockton. Nick Diaz doesn't even know where he is. Victory says, oh, and I forgot to tell you, Matt Brown, Matt Hamill were there tonight. Oh, okay. Oh, snap. Okay, that's awesome, man. So there you go, man. There you go. Always remember those names that I just told you, okay? Because this game is not a game. This is serious. So next time you judge a fighter for what they do, understand the consequences that come with this game. And Joe Rogan said it best. Man, these casuals, he was so disgusted by the crowd tonight. And rightfully so. And with that, that is the best way that we can really end this and land that plane at home right there. Just think about what I said. Next time you criticize these fighters for the choices that they do. Remember, I get that you want entertainment. But ultimately, when you're watching fighting, the entertainment is the result. And the violence is only the cherry on top if it happens. Okay? So with that in mind, don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you in the next one. Inshallah. And guess what? Yes, yes, I hate you too. I hate you with every fiber of my being. And you know what I want to do with you when I meet you? I'm going to hurt you really bad when I meet you. Okay? And just remember this. I live in Northern California. Okay? Not only do I know gangsters, but I also know people that work in Silicon Valley that can find your IP address. And with those combinations combined, I'm Captain Destruction to your life. Love y'all. Have a good one. And by the way, everything that I said is just out of entertainment. Remember, I'm an entertainer. And you, yes, yes, you are not. Shout outs to George Cook, man. I'll see you in the next stream. Thank you so much for your support and everybody around you. It was a great show. It was a great night. It was a great live stream. This was a great post live stream, and I enjoyed every minute of it. And I'm glad that I got to do this separately from my live stream of live reactions. Shout out to everybody around the world, and I'll see you in the next one, inshallah. And Matt Brown is huge for welterweight. I seen that. Okay. Yes, there it is. Shout out to everybody around the world, and I'll see you in the next one, inshallah. D-Man, shout out to you.